Hi, everyone. I see there's still a few people signing up, so we're just going to give it a couple more minutes before we begin the webinar with Stobley. Hello again, everyone. I'm Jeremy Baumann, outside sales with BayWa Canada. Continuing education is an important part to BayWa, so we really appreciate you attending and taking time out of your busy day to join us with our webinar with Stobley. Just a reminder that this will be recorded and you'll be able to see it on our YouTube channel. It will also be released during our next monthly newsletter. Please sign up for our YouTube channel if you've not already. You can find all of our past webinars there as well. If you have any questions during the webinar, be sure to type them into the chat box in the bottom right corner. We'll answer the questions as we go, but we'll have some time at the end of the webinar if there's any further questions. So as mentioned, continuing education is an important part to the culture here at BayWa, and we're happy to be able to extend this to our customers. Stobley is the leader in PV connectors. There really is no better solution if you're planning on making your own whips or home runs for projects. Great partner with BayWa, and we're happy to have them with us today. Without further ado, I'll pass things off to Tarren.
Thank you, Jeremy. As Jeremy mentioned, yeah, my name is Tarren Luck. I'm with Stobley Electrical Connectors. Here, I'm just going to make sure that my screen is projecting the right way. Okay. Okay. Can you guys all see?
Sure can.
See the presentation here?
You betcha.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. It should be the full screen one. You should be able to see the slides on the side.
We can still see the slides on the side.
Okay. Okay, let me just make sure. Screen and monitor one. Okay. Okay. Should be good to go now. Okay, so as Jeremy mentioned, my name is Tarren Luck. I'm with Stobley Electrical Connectors. I'm gonna just go through a little bit of an introduction, both of myself and the company before we get started. As Jeremy mentioned, if you guys do have any questions, please just toss it into the chat and I will do my best to answer as we go. but if there are any that I missed, I will make sure to go back at the end of the presentation and get any of the questions that I missed. My name, again, Tarren Luck. I am the field sales engineer with Stobley, specifically in the electrical connectors division under the renewable energy department. So within renewable energy, there is the MC4, which I'm sure you guys have all heard of if you guys are on this call. We are the world leader in PV electrical connectors. And with that, we also have another handful of connector solutions that I will also be going through today. I've been with the company just over a year now. I am located in Edmonton, Alberta, as I know Jeremy and this Baywa location is. So if you guys do have any questions, please feel free to run those through Jeremy, or as well as any future orders or anything like that. As a distributor, they are able to get you the best pricing through them. So just a little bit about the company. The company is over 135 years old. It says 30 years in the PV industry. We're now, I think, around 35 to 40. We are quite a large company. We are Swiss-based, just out of Basel, Switzerland, which is right on that French, German, Swiss border there. So that is where our headquarters are. And then as far as our local North American headquarters, we're just based out of Windsor, California, which is about an hour north of San Francisco there. As far as PV connectors specifically, we have over 800 gigawatts of PV connected with the original MC4, which is the equivalent to just under 500 million tons of CO2 annually. Going over the 4 divisions within Stobley. So electrical connectors, as I mentioned, which is what I fall under here in renewable energy. We also have fluid connectors, robotics, and textiles. Textiles is actually how Stobley originally began about 135 years ago, selling textile machines, and then through that expanded into robotics through an acquisition. And then via that, it just gives its hand to electrical and fluid connectors. So those are kind of the 4 main pillars of Stobley. Doing a quick product portfolio here, as I previously mentioned. So we do have the original MC4, which is kind of our bread and butter as far as our renewable energy portfolio. We also have a MC4 Evo 2 component, which is our European and overseas variation. There are different IEC and UL wire requirements when being used in Europe and North America. So that is why there is the difference of the MC4 as compared to the MC4 Evo 2. For all intents and purposes, I am going to just be talking about the MC4. The MC4 Evo 2 will be in a couple of the pictures that I go through, which I will notate. They look very similar. The Evo 2 looks a little bit more futuristic, but the MC4 is what is primarily and almost exclusively used here in the North American market. Alongside that, we also sell jumper cables, which come in customizable length options, anywhere from, I think we can go as low as 10 centimeters, and we can literally make them as long as you would need out on site. We do all the installations of the MC4 on either side ourselves, so you can ensure that, that they have been properly crimped and manufactured and are ready for plug and play once they come to the site. We also have our panel receptacle solution, which goes directly into inverters and combiner boxes. Just creates a good weathering seal and prevents any moisture or anything from entering your inverter that way. A newer option that we have is our inline fuse, or our ILF. We have recently pushed through about a year ago the ILF2, which is our second iteration, and it essentially is for all intents and purposes, the exact same as the ILF1, just with a little bit more of a streamlined design under UL and IEC certifications, and as well we can do that in custom length and configurations as well. So for instance, if closer to the male end you would prefer to have the fuse, closer to that side and not necessarily in the middle of the entire unit, that we can shift that as is required for your guys' projects. The amp ratings are 4 to 30 amps. We are working on getting some higher ratings all the way up to 60 or 65, I believe. Those are still in the works. We don't quite have a sales estimated launch date yet, but that is something that we are hoping to push to market relatively soon here. And then last thing I'll just quickly touch on here is our branch connectors, or what some people like to call Y splitters. We have both MMF and FFM configurations, so 2-to-1 or a 1-to-2. Those all come at 95 amp ratings, and those are also available for batch purchase with whatever your guys' projects might require. So one of the questions we often get asked, why Staubli MC4 and how MC4 became a leader in the market. So globally, we have about 50% of the global PV market. If we push that over to North America, it increases drastically to about 70. I think that might even be outdated. We might be closer to 75 or 80. So the MC4 stands for multi-contact 4mm. So multi-contact was a company that was previously separate, and then through acquisition, I believe in the early 2000s, around 2003, 2004, was acquired by Staubli and now operates under the Staubli name. You will still see on the MC4s, when you hold them in your hand, that there is the MC markings that are still on the connector itself. We do that just to ensure continuity between all of our products and use it as a marker to ensure that that it is an MC4 exclusively manufactured by Staubli. So out in the market, it has become a little bit of a kind of Kleenex facial tissue equivalent. That you will see MC4 even if they are not, and MC4 now just seems to universally be decreed as a PV connector of sorts, but that's not true. MC4 needs to specifically be made by Staubli, and as per UL regulations, and this is not specifically for Staubli, but just for PV connectors in general, there is no intermatability. So if you have an MC4, it needs to mate into an MC4, or with any other brand or product you might be using. There just hasn't been a cross UL testing between all of the brands and different types. So as far as UL certification goes, testing has only been done specifically between one company within their own connectors. Materials, we only use virgin materials, virgin plastics and virgin copper, which helps prevent any kind of contaminants or micrometals or anything being involved in resets and repunches. So that is something that we do just to ensure quality out in the field, and that is what we have done to ensure that our MC4s are able to last for 20+ years in anywhere from the Arctic all the way down to equator positions. Our claim to fame is the multi-lamp contact element, which is found not just in the MC4 but in almost all of our electrical connectors. It's this little component that kind of looks like a concave barrel there with little slits inside. That is just for increased connectivity with using minimal resistance. So we ensure that as much power and electrons are able to be pushed through the system without causing any overheating or melting of the connector, which you sometimes see in competing products. Again, just a reminder, if you guys do have any questions, just toss them in the chat and I can answer them as we go. If I don't see any in there, I'm just going to keep chugging along, but please feel free to toss any questions in the chat there. I'm going to quickly just talk about our manufacturing facilities. So for the North American market, all of our production manufacturing is done here in North America. So Duncan, South Carolina, and Windsor, California, which is where our electrical connector headquarters are, in that Windsor, California location. Those are our two primary locations for all manufacturing, again, done here in North America. We do have some international locations, but those will support their respective local markets, China and China, Europe and Europe, and that such. So within that, yeah, we have the assembly lines pushing through production numbers. We have some capacities down at the bottom. If any of that does interest you, I can also send some follow-up slides afterwards as well. So our product portfolio, tooling and accessories. This is our toolkit that we have refurbished and pushed out this previous year. So within this tooling and accessory portfolio here, this toolkit that you can see at the bottom, we also have a tool belt, which is typically used out on industrial sites just for ease of use. So by using that, it prevents you from having to put everything back into the toolkit and then move over a couple feet to go to the next panel and then take everything out again. We use that, yeah, just as an ease of use there. So when looking at this tooling, the only thing that is required as per UL certification is the crimping pliers, which I have the little star by there. We do have a variety of other tools, everything you need to be successful in installing the MC4. But as far as the UL certification, the crimping pliers are required to be a Staubli branded tool. That is just because of the robustness of said crimper. We also have made sure that it does parallel clamping instead of scissor clamping to ensure a good crimp, and all the testing through UL has been done with that crimping plier, which is essentially how it becomes a requirement. There are too many crimping pliers out there to ensure that all of them can be UL certified when installing our MC4s. But yeah, the crimping plier itself is required as per UL. We also have spanner sets, unlocking tools, torque tool, wire strippers, wire cutters, test pins, sealing caps, and crimping dies and locators, which I will be going through each of those as we go through the step-by-step process of how to properly install an MC4. Just a little quick lesson on MC4 notation here, getting familiar. So when looking at the actual product names, we do have multiple different sizing. There is a size 1, a size X, and then a size 2. I see there's a little bit of a glare, so you can't quite see the size X, but that is our middle solution. So essentially what those gland sizes are, we size based off of the outer diameter of the wire being used, as well as the wire gauge itself. So that gland size, when it is properly torqued, it seats on the outside of that wire insulation after it has been stripped, and that is what prevents any moisture, bugs, dust, things like that from getting inside and ensuring the proper durability of said MC4s. As I was previously talking about there for a hot second, the product names of the S and B are the German names, which stand for Stecker and Busch, which are the male and female equivalent. And then one thing that we really try and drill in, and does seem counterintuitive, if you are looking at just the outside black plastic housing, which is typically what you will be working with or looking at out on your sites. It is counterintuitive. So the naming is based off of the inner contact, the inner metal contact here, and not the housing itself. So because of that, yeah, it is easy to get a little bit mixed up at first glance. But the male end, the male contact will actually be on the inside of the female black insulation housing unit, and vice versa for the female piece. So that is just something to keep in mind as we go through the rest of this presentation here. Okay, gonna quickly go through some of the supporting documents that you can find on our site as further resources. So with every item that we have in the Staubli catalog, we have a assembly manual, which is MA, which again, because of our European roots, stands for, it's a very, very long German name, but essentially it narrows down to MA. So it's not just a spelling error on our side, as you would expect assembly manual to be AM. It is just standing for our German abbreviation. So MA231 is the one that we use for our MC4s. I will also send a link to Jeremy afterwards, as well as a link to a YouTube video that involves the installation of MC4s as well, that can be used just as a future resource to answer any quick questions. But the MA essentially includes everything that is required as far as ensuring that the MC4 is properly sized, what tooling you would need, and what wire requirements are needed. So I will, as previously mentioned, send that link to Jeremy, and if anyone has questions, then feel free to go through him on that. Okay, so, okay. So now we're going to go through the step-by-step process of MC4 installation. If you're looking at this MC4, wondering why it looks a little bit different than the one we've been looking at previously, this is what I had talked about with the MC4 Evo 2. So a lot of our marketing materials are European, as that is where our global headquarters are. So you'll often see, yeah, the difference of MC4 here. So this is the MC4 Evo 2. Again, that's primarily used overseas in the European market, just due to their different wiring requirements. But here in North America, we just use the standard MC4. Installation and everything is the exact same. There's just different requirements as far as creepage clearances and some various other engineering jargon. So cable prep, this part's easy enough. Just ensure that you have your cable to the right length and just give her a snip. Wire cutters, we do sell our own Staubli ones. However, obviously any wire cutter works for that. Stripping. So we do sell a set of stripping pliers as well, which we do have a little measuring tool which can be placed for consistent stripping every single time. So that locator there can just be set to a relevant distance, and then it's, yeah, it just creates consistent stripping throughout your entire project or as adjusted. So in the MA231 assembly manual, as I mentioned, it does give you various stripping lengths. There is a little bit of flexibility in here. As seen, there's a little bit of a millimeter range, which is why the locator is always a great option. As you install a few, you'll have a better idea of what visually to look for. Now we're going to go through some of the cable crimping. Again, as previously mentioned, the crimping pliers are required by UL. We also do have 2 different sets of crimping die, depending on what size of MC4 you are using. So if you do have any questions, making sure that you're using the right crimping die, then that is something you can always check with either myself or through Jeremy. We do have two different crimp types as well. We have a barrel crimp and an open crimp, which I will go into a little bit of discussion further after this, but we have different crimping die for each of those as well. And then this locator, you'll see in a couple steps here what that is used for, but that is just to essentially make sure that the crimp is upright within the crimping pliers to prevent any splaying or improper crimps. So this is talking about the crimp tool itself, and what you can see of the locator on the last slide, how that sits in there. So with the open crimp type, you can see there's a little bit of a U, and so that U needs to be situated upwards in order for the crimp to properly be seated. So when using this locator, you have this little thumb switch just to make sure that that it is fully upright, and that when you do push down on the crimp, that it's not splaying out to any of the sides or anything like that. You may also notice that there are different handle colors as well. This is similar to the MC4 to MC4 Evo 2, that this gray handle is primarily used over in the North American market. We are doing a global kind of uniformity with that. So what you would see as blue handle crimpers here in North America will be shifting to gray. We don't have a firm date set on that yet, but if you do see gray or blue out in the field in the future, it's nothing to be concerned about. Both will work as per UL certification standards. A little bit of a closer visual on the locator and how it should be properly used here. You can see on the left-hand side that zoomed in image there that the U shape is not being properly made as the locator is not properly seated. So when doing that, obviously when you push down and do a full cycle of the crimper, it will not properly crimp, and then it risks running improper current and voltages through. So with that, you would get power losses and potential overheating, which could create melting and potentially fires out on your site. So it is really, really important to make sure that you are properly using this locator when crimping Staubli MC4s. So inserting the strip cable end, you just want to make sure, obviously, that that all of the wire strands are underneath the locator bit and should be fully situated within that U portion of the crimp. And so another thing that our crimpers do, they will not release unless fully cycled through. So that is something that we have designed in our crimpers to ensure that every crimp is as reliable as possible, which is another reason why the Staubli crimper is required for MC4 installation. Quick visual inspection and things of what to look for. So when you do have the crimp fully situated, it shouldn't be sitting right up against the insulation. There should be a little bit of a hair gap, which is also why using the wire stripper locator is important as well. Once you kind of figure out that sweet spot, then you're able to replicate that again and again and again and prevent any improper stripping here. So you can see what is considered a good crimp and kind of where the Brussels or the broom should be situated. Once you look inside the crimp, you should be able to see some of the bristles coming through the back end there, and that ensures that that it is fully crimped, fully crimped on at a desirable length to make sure that, that you can get as much power and energy going through there as possible. So here's a quick look at the visual inspection. Yeah, a little tough to see as it's zoomed out, but you can see there is a little bit of a hair gap in between the insulation and the beginning of the metal crimp there. So from that, you can deter that you're able to move on to the next step.
Well, Tarren, just a quick question. If somebody crimps on the wire, the ferrule there, and it's not going into the MC4 properly, like it can't go in, all the way and properly click, is it safe to assume that they just didn't crimp that ferrule correctly and they should cut it off and do a new one?
Yeah. So we'll go over the clicking process here on the next step, but no, that is a good question. And yes, at that point, like if it is not properly clicking, first thing I would do is recut the wire at the base of your previous crimp and then start that again. And if it's not working, just like also make sure that you're doing a quick visual in the back end of the MC4 installation body before you snap it on as well. Make sure that there's no obstructions or anything that looks out of the norm there. But yes, I guess short answer, you would want to restart that because you want to hear that click, and that's what makes sure that that it is secure on the wire there.
Yeah, and I've had some people new to solar just noting that they haven't actually been able to get the wire into the housing of the plastic bit, and I think it was due to not using the proper barrel style crimper. So that's a sign at the time of installation that they should stop, cut it off, put a new ferrule on, and make sure that it's crimped properly before inserting into the actual plastic housing. Correct?
Yes, yeah, correct. And yeah, that might also be in part the type of crimper that is used at the time too. Like if it isn't the Staubli MC4 crimper, like if it is one of the scissor crimpers or something, it could create kind of a deformity that prevents the wire with the crimp on it to be fully pushed into the insulator body, which could prevent some of that click from going on there. Okay, moving on. Okay, so as that question kind of orchestrated there, the next step is going to be to simply push the housing insulator on. There's not a lot of audio that you're able to hear on this, but you can see there is visually there is a kind of a release point where the MC4 black insulator housing should be able to freely push on and let's see if we can get this to, yeah, so you can see right there, right? When it does that, that's when you know, and you can see our demonstrator here gives a little test. So you should be able to freely pull it off. Once it is clipped on, it should be there to stay. That is when it pushes past the gland point. So the gland has one-way teeth on there, so it will allow you to push it on, but not to take it off, and that is just to ensure that it is properly seated once you start torquing it. So this is an important part, inspecting with the test pin. You can buy these separately. They don't necessarily need to be purchased within the full toolkit, but they do come with said toolkit. So when using this test pin, you just want to make sure that the black plastic housing is properly situated on the crimper itself, or sorry, on the metal crimp itself. So by doing this, you just simply use the test pin. Both sides of the test pin are respective to male and female. You just quickly toss it in both sides, and when it is seated on the metal crimp on the inside, you should be able to see still a sliver of this white band here, which is what that is doing there. So For instance, you'll see here, you can still see there is a sliver of white that is sitting there. So when you see that, that's when you know that you are good to go, that it is properly situated in on that.
Tarren, we just have a question here. Somebody's asking, are MC4s only certified and CSA or UL when using the Staubli crimper only? What if someone uses their own non-Staubli crimper? Does it void all warranties and certifications?
Yes, so UL requires, that is the only tool that is required for UL certification is the Staubli crimper. If you are using your own crimper out on site, that would void it of any kind of UL certification under the UL 6703, I believe it is. It would not be UL certified then, that installation.
So in short, make sure you're not buying your crimpers and tools off of Amazon, or you're buying, Amazon knockoff MC4s. You want to make sure that it's the real deal, just to make sure that nothing's getting lit up on a roof or a building, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and like, we don't sell our products on Amazon, to my knowledge. And again, as I previously mentioned, there is like that kind of, like, MC4 has become like a Kleenex to facial tissue type equivalent. So so what you will see, like, you can type in MC4 on Amazon and you will get a large list of things that say they are MC4 or MC4 compatible. There is no such thing as MC4 compatible. As far as UL, the testing is only done within each brand of manufacturer itself. So Staubli has only been tested with Staubli. There hasn't been any other connectors that it has been tested with that has been UL certified. So if you are hoping to have your installation, whether it be residential or commercial or utility, yeah, if it being UL installed is a requirement, then it needs to be done with a Staubli crimper.
And that's pertinent for Canada too. So, I mean, there are those cheaper tools out there that you can find, but it's just not worth the risk. You're better off buying, the Klein of the MC4 crimpers, like this tool you noted here, than getting something that's a cheap knockoff that, could render your system to be quite the hazard down the road.
Yep, definitely. Okay, so the next step we're going to go through here is just pre-tightening and torque. This step isn't necessarily required, as the torquing is going to be done with a calibrated torque wrench, but this is something that can be done on site, just to make sure that that you're at least getting to a point that it is prepared for torque. For instance, if the cab nut is sitting a little bit loose on the back, but I'll show you on this next slide what these will typically be used for. So the hole in the middle of the spanner set here then goes on to the top part of the cap, and then with that, or with the second one, you are then able to give it a couple spins just to make sure that it is properly seated in preparation for torquing. One thing I also want to mention is that so we do have two options of this. This PV-MS PLS is a metal option, which is more robust, and that's typically going to be used for your commercial and utility scale. The PV-MS is a much cheaper plastic option. Depending on what conditions you are operating in, they sometimes are prone to snapping. They are built for, or we brought these to market for smaller scale jobs, such as people doing installs on their RVs or residential homes or something like that, like kind of like one-offs, but are not necessarily intended for extremely long-term use, but just something to keep in mind as well. Now for the actual torquing portion. So these are the 3 parts that are required for this. While we do sell this torquing tool, an adapter and socket, these aren't necessarily Staubli inclusive or Staubli exclusive. This is a torquing tool that that you can find at Canadian Tire, and the adapter and sockets. The socket might be exclusive to Staubli, just as far as the actual sizing of it, but I believe it is a 17 millimeter socket. Just off the top of my head, I can verify that afterwards, and it's also in the MA, which I will send a link out to after. But these are the tools that are then required for that. So using 1/2 or just one piece of the spanner set here and putting it on top, you are then able to put the back end of the MC4 into the socket piece and then give it a couple twists. The MA231 does state 3.5 Newton meters of torque. So you just want to ensure that your torquing tool is properly calibrated before going on. And you're going to torque just until you hear that click, and then after that, it should be properly seated. And we'll go over a couple things of what to look for. So, so if you are wondering kind of what this torquing part does, a couple slides back we were talking about the different gland sizes, that kind of rubbery seal. So this is just ensuring that that is properly seated on the outside of the wire going in, on the outside of the insulation there. So, so when properly torqued, it's leaving no gap space, and again, that prevents any moisture or dust or mites or anything like that from getting in and creating any corrosion or anything that could possibly mess with power flow or resistance there. So I don't have audio on this, but you can see how this is used there, and then you're not able to quite hear the click again because not of the audio, but you can see there's a little click that his hand does there, and that is when you know it is properly seated. So a couple quick things to look for upon the final inspection, and even outside of actually installing them. If you do come across MC4s, these are things that you won't necessarily need any tools for, just something to look for and ensure proper installation out on site. So, so we do want to make sure that that the MC4 is properly sized, and how you can check for that. You do want a little bit of a gap between this end cabinet here and the rest of the housing. You should see a couple of these I lost words here. I forget what these are called, but you should see a little bit of a gap in between there. If they are properly seated directly against each other here, that's how you know that the gland is properly oversized and it's not properly seated on the wire itself, and thus there's going to be a gap in there. And over the course of time, again, like ideally we want these out for like 25 plus years in the field, and that is what we have seen with our products in the past. In order to ensure that, you do want to see a little bit of a gap here to make sure that that gland is properly seated on the outside of the wire. Next, we're just going to quickly go over mating and unmating here. So it's a simple push-in. When they are fully pushed together, this is when you should see them seamlessly integrate in that regard. There should be a little bit of a gap in there. It should just be a quick push and a click, which is easy enough. And as far as unlocking, so that spanner set that we previously saw also doubles as an unlocking tool. So those prongs that are sitting on the end, then are able to be input in here. Again, this is the MC4 Evo 2, the European counterpart, so it does look a little bit different than the North American MC4 here, but the concept is still the same. So if it is input there, simple push in, and it pushes the prong teeth of the female end MC4 in together, and then just give a little tug, and then it will come apart there. So we also have, outside of the actual products that we sell, we also have service offerings. So this is, we essentially have three tiers. So this basic field assembly training is done virtually, which is what we're currently sitting through here. We just go through a couple slides, talk about any of the questions that you guys have, go over our product portfolio, things like that. We also have an entire services team that exclusively goes out to sites, educates people, and then goes over their projects with them. Depending on the size of the installation, they do something which is called a golden row. So making sure that there is a full segment of solar panels that are properly installed, and then that is used as kind of the go-to reference point for when our Staubli services representatives are no longer on site after the training is completed, but they can still go back there just to reference, okay, this is what it should look like, void of all concerns after being reviewed by one of our services guys, and then out on site in that. So there are, different durations and costs associated with those. But as far as, the basic field assembly training, which we're currently sitting through, that is free to you guys. So outside of this, if you guys do have customers that you think would be interested in this training, please hit up either Jeremy or I, and we can get that set up for you guys. Education is paramount, as Jeremy mentioned. It's very important to us to make sure that our stuff is properly installed out in the field. It prevents fires, prevents injuries, prevents any downtime out on these sites, and educating for free helps our product look better out in the field. So it is a good incentive for us to be offering these free basic field assembly trainings. So please, it is important to us that we properly educate everyone on that. Other than that, that is all the that is all the things I have. My area, which is something I should have mentioned prior, I look over Western Canada, so Alberta and British Columbia, as well as the Pacific Northwest down in the US as well. So Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, as well as some of the northerly states such as Alaska, and then I also look over the Yukon as well on the Canadian side. So if you guys do have any questions about any projects or products that can be used in any of those locations, please, let Jeremy or I know, and we can do our best to help you guys out. Other than that, that's everything from me. I'm not sure, I'm not getting any questions in the chat here, but Jeremy, I know you were saying that you can see some, so I'm not sure if there's anything else.
Is there any other further questions people have right now for Tarren? If you're not able to type into the chat, don't sweat it. You can reach out to your outside rep as well. I see another question here. Can we get the PV KBT 4-Evo in Canada? No crimping tool needed or used for this installation. Can you speak to that at all, Tarren?
I'm not sure if they are talking about. So we have the Evo Ready 2, which is not supposed to require any installation. That is a newer product that we have pushed out. It's not currently certified for North America. It's right now just exclusive to our European customers. I do believe we are working on bringing it to North America, but right now I don't have a firm timeline on that.
Okay, thanks. We'll keep an eye on that, Tarren, and if we learn more, we'll definitely pass it on to our installers. Any more questions right now? Doesn't look like it, but Tarren, that was super helpful. We really appreciate you showing this to us, and it's only going to bolster our installers' confidence out there, and it's a good refresher for those who haven't gone through one of these webinars before. So thanks so much for being with us, and again, everybody, this presentation has been recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel and in our next monthly newsletter release. Tarren has passed on links to me that we can share with our contractors and customers to make sure they're doing things correctly. So make sure, if you want to see that, to reach out to your outside sales rep and they'll pass that on. Also, I wanted to mention, if we have any customers on the webinar or anybody viewing this webinar later that aren't signed up for our industry-leading web shop, please do so. It's such a great resource. You can find spec sheets for all of our products, including the MC4 here. You can find pricing, inventory levels, install manuals. You can see your orders and all your invoices there as well. So please reach out to your outside rep if you're not already signed up for our web shop. We do have available stock of the MC4s that Tarren has so kindly showed us how to install properly in our warehouses. Edmonton is going to be receiving another shipment in another week or so. So get your orders in if you guys are going to be building right away. And Tarren, really, thanks so much for spending time with us. Thanks everybody else out there for spending time with us on their no doubt busy schedules. Looking forward to seeing everybody at the next one. And that's it for now.
Thank you guys very much for having me.
Bye, everybody.
Bye all.